What's up, everyone? Happy Monday to you. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to my favorite day of the week, Mondays. Mondays actually are my favorite days of the week. Why? Because when people say, oh, it's a case of the Mondays, I said, you're right. It's a great case of the Mondays. Super excited to be with you guys here today. Who is with me? This build up a little bit. Tell me who's just in the comments. Say hello. Thanks for being here today. Today we are going to talk about a lot of different things, but it's going to be exciting. We're talking about spending your time correctly so that you can get the results that you want. Steven, what's up, brother? Been talking to you a lot recently. Hope you are doing well. Stephen number 2, hello, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Excited to do this with you guys today. Juliet, hello. How was everyone's weekends? Were they good? You guys got your coffee rolling? You guys know me, love coffee, about 12 cups a day. Mr. Batcher, hello. Great to hear from you. All right, guys, so if at any time you guys have questions, please leave them in the comments. Also, if you find that this information is valuable, we try to do this, or we're going to try and do this each and every morning. We're going to test out times. We've been doing around 10:15, doing a little earlier today. It's 9:46. I've got 1,600 steps in, and my heart rate is doing just good. Juliet, we're here for you driving home from Buffalo. All right, so what I want to talk to you guys today is about really spending your time correctly so that you can get the goal that you want. Now, a lot of people have small goals and big goals, but to obtain those, not everyone kind of breaks those things down into kind of the steps that are needed to actually make that happen. And so I believe that a lot of people, here's a great example of what I'm talking about. A lot of people talk about, being busy. I'm super busy, I'm doing all this work, but when they actually look at it, does it actually return any kind of investment from what you actually put into it? And I'm gonna debate no. And so you can do this a number of different ways. You can do this for the next 7 days. It's Monday, not 10 o'clock yet. Basically, figure out what you're going to do for the next 7 days. And basically, every minute, figure out what you did during that specific time. Now, that's crazy. It's tedious. I get it. But what if we told you at the end of this that the time that you spent doing this actually was spent poorly? Maybe you go to the same networking event each and every week, and you spend 2 hours there, and you spend 15 to 30 minutes driving there each and every week. That's 3 hours every week for 52 weeks. I'm not that good at math. Let's say that you do take a vacation of 2 weeks, so 50 times 3 is 150 hours towards this networking event. What happens if you look at this networking event and you find that it actually returns very little, if any, onto your investment? And not just the time that you're at that event, but potentially the money spent there and the time focusing on that specific thing each week. Now, if you play the follow-up game, which I hope you do. Hey, Jason, how are you? Hey, Tara. Enjoy Europe, Tara. I think that's where you said you're going, Paris or something. If you play the follow-up game in that too, and each week, 3 hours, you gotta think it's another hour or two on that. 5 times 50, now you're at 250 hours for something that you have no idea if it actually is valuable to you. Maybe it's just an emotional win for you. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes people love to get that emotion, that emotional feeling, and it's a positive one for them. But I think we have to look at kind of our lives and our businesses as kind of data points. And whenever we can actually look at something and say, hey, I should have been spending my time here instead of over here, and then what actually did I get out of it that was worth it to me, is that a value? So I'm a big believer that we should live the lives that we want to, but we also should be smart about it. And so if you want to watch, 2 hours a day of Netflix, that's okay. I don't care. If you want to watch 4 hours a day on Netflix, I don't care. If you want to play 4 hours of video games, I don't care, right? That's up for you to decide. But I think when you kind of dissect and figure out what in that kind of piece of the day was of value and brings you something back, was that actually worth it? And so if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to grow a business, if you're trying to maybe become more of an expert in something, and you look at your day and say, okay, everyone has the same day, it's 24 hours. Hey Susie, how are you? We have 24 hours in the day. What of that are we actually willing to kind of invest in to do these other things? So I try and get 8 hours of sleep a night. I think 3 of the last 4 days I got 8 hours. Usually that looks like something like 10:30 to 6:30. Recently I've been really trying to get 8 hours of sleep, because before I'd get somewhere between 5 and 6, and so I've tried putting more time back into that so that I can get rest. But look at the things in your life, look at your actual inventory and say, what are you actually spending time on? And so what you'll find is that whether it's Netflix, whether it's video games, whether it's sleep, we all have 24 hours. So let's take away the 8 hours traditional work, okay? The 8 hours of sleeping, that leaves you with 8 other hours in the day. Maybe you spend that all with your family. But let's dissect those 8 hours in the middle, again, of like the traditional work day, okay? So you go to an event, you meet with someone, Tracy, hello? You meet with someone, and you decide that was a value, that they potentially could be a prospect, that they could be something of value to you, and you go in and you start reinvesting more time into that thing. Now, I'm a firm believer that you should start putting kind of triggers in there to figure out how likely someone is likely to become a potential customer. Now, if you go to a networking meeting, likely people are going there for a reason. I have found that a lot of people that go to networking meetings are sales professionals or people on the sales team of a company. And they're looking for business cards. I don't have any on me, but they're looking for business cards so that they can take that information and then put you through their own funnel. So if you're going to a networking meeting, are you actually going to be able to find the right people that you're looking for, or are the people that are there actually doing the opposite on you? Real quick, of those of you that are watching, how many of you guys go to networking events, and what is your strategy when you go to these events? Tracy, good morning. Double Tracy, good morning. Hello. Susie, I think I said hello. Great to be with you guys here. Bright and early. No rain this week, right? If you guys are here in southeastern Virginia. But really, how much of your days do you guys allow to be manipulated by others? I believe that we should really focus on spending the time in a creative and strategic way. Jeannie from cookietext.com says, make more cookies for Zach. That's exactly what I think you should do. No, she says, meet people I haven't met. Absolutely. But I would go even further than that, depending on how valuable your time is, and really go into the networking event that you're going to and figure out, of those people who you may already have connections with, who may be looking for your services, and really understand how you can leverage them to better you. Susie says, smile. Greet as many people as you can when I'm at networking. How many people, Susie, do you typically try and meet at a 1 hour networking event? And what is your strategy typically afterwards? I'll tell you what mine is. So I don't go to a lot of networking meetings. I used to, but what I found is that a lot of them are filled with people that aren't necessarily clients. And so I try and bring them to me instead for some of our meetings, some of our meetups that we have, and then I kind of put them through the ringer in that kind of way. And so we host our own at Hatch instead of us going to other places. We do still go to things, but we try and do speaking gigs and things like that. What I try and do at a speaking gig and I'll call that a networking meeting, is we have basically a sheet of paper that says name and email, and I say at the event, hey, if you're interested in more information about us, or if a way that I can contact you, here's this form, and we throw it out. We don't throw it, I politely hand it to people and say, I'd love to give you more information about the stuff that we're working on. Not a sales pitch. Basically just say, here are some more ways that you guys can get in touch with us, and then if you fill this out, we'll reach back out to you, and we add that to our list, and they kind of go through our educational content stuff. And so many of you have probably gone through that process with us, and so then you'll get put on our weekly emails that tell us, like we just sent one 40 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, that says, hey, here's what's in the entrepreneur and innovation space here in the 757, and kind of going through those things. And so here's some good articles we think you might like. Here's my interview with Damon John. All these things that we think people seem to engage with, we then bring them back to them and say, here's this stuff we don't know if you had seen it before. Kathy, how are you? And so basically, like we talked about last week, controlling the funnel the way that you want. And so I get scared sometimes that we meet with too many people and we don't curate them at all. And so by really trying to curate them through the process, we can figure out earlier on who is likely to become a client or not. Obviously, you don't want to try and sleep with someone on the first date. You want to try and create a relationship with them, because people are more likely to do business with people they trust and think are an authority, instead of people that they just try and sell. I mean, when was the last time you actually were at a meeting, someone said, oh, buy this thing, and you bought it? We all run away from them at the mall. We talk about malls a lot here and how terrible they are, but they make a lot of money. Like the kiosk people that are trying to sell you things that are going to break in 10 days. Like, we all run away from those people. And at networking events, we run away from those people too. And so by finding a way to see who's at the meeting first, then going up and reaching out to them, maybe even beforehand through an email saying, hey, John, I see that you're going to XYZ event. I will be there too. I look forward to meeting you at XYZ event. Hope to see you there. Bam. And then when you kind of already done that stuff, that introduction to them, why you want to reach out to that person, because you've gone through your kind of due diligence checklist, and it gives you an opportunity to potentially create a relationship with someone that you think you've already curated and qualified that will become a potential prospect. All right, we got a lot of comments here. I'm going to go through and start reaching out. Tracy Link, now that we have two Tracys on here, cheers, says, all the time, it is better to join the group and become a member of one of their committees. The committees are where the decision makers are. That's really solid, Tracy. A lot of times people are trying to get in front of the decision makers, and they don't always get in front of them because the decision makers have busy lives. They can't go and do all these things, so they're very specific and curated lives themselves and say, I can give 1 hour a month, and this is the place where I want to do it. And typically it is deeper in committees. Very good information there. Wow, Susie. Wow, 15 to 20 in an hour. That's impressive. So that's one every 3 to 4 minutes, if my math is correct. That's impressive. It means more to you to have a mini conversation and connection rather than just pass out a ton of cards to everyone. Totally agree. One of the 3 topics that we had this morning that we were going to talk about, one of them is the one that we're talking about, basically spending empty calories in your life. That's what this is. Number 2 is how to kind of find prospects. We kind of talked a little bit about there in kind of the networking phase. And then number 3 was business cards, and how you don't want to be a business card troll, because if you are, what happens is you become that business card person. I firmly believe that your business card literally means nothing. The conversation that you have is far more valuable than the business card and the information on it. As long as someone can contact you, that's all that matters. And sometimes people don't have business cards. Well, I'm going to show you a great example of what I've done when someone doesn't have it. I just say, hey, here's your contact information, just write it down. And so I don't care that they don't have one. I'm still going to get it, right? Don't rely on someone else to be that. Here's a great story about networking, and one of the reasons why I shy away from it, and shy is not the right word. I just have found that it's not very valuable for me. The reason is, an example is about 4 months ago, many of you know that I host a TV show here locally. I was at an event, and at this event we were able to tell everyone what we're working on in a very quick kind of minute or less dialogue. I'm like, hey, I'm Zach, started Hatch, this is what we do, but also I host a weekly episodic television show called Hampton Roads Business Weekly, where we are educating and showcasing the local business community. And if you are a local entrepreneur or know of a business that might be a good fit, please reach out to me afterwards or at this email, and we can hopefully kind of take you down the path to bring you on. It has been 4 months now. I believe it's been 4 months, maybe 3. In the comments, I want to know how many people do you think actually reached back out? It was a group of maybe 50 people, maybe 100 people, of which I gave out all of my business cards, and there was an expressed interest from at least 20 of these folks. How many of them do you think actually reached back out? In the comments below, or to the side if you're watching this in full screen, how many of those people do you think actually reached out? Kathy says, should have been most of them. Hey Mandy, how are you? You would think that of the people there, even if they weren't the right fit, that this would be a great way for them to maybe introduce me to someone else. I'm gonna tell you the answer, folks. Tracy, a link, you got it right. Right there. 0. If you get an opportunity to get closer down the line to get some publicity, you should probably take it. It was disturbing that these folks did not take it. And when we talk about the mindset of Hustle City, one of the real reasons is to let people know that you have to kind of bust your tail to get there. It doesn't mean you have to work 24/7, doesn't mean you have to work weekends and all these things. You just have to understand where your time is going and use that best to be there. And if you get an opportunity to get in front of 25,000 people a week, you probably would want to take that. Hey Tal, how are you? And so when people talk about, oh, I wish this would have happened, well, what did you do to make sure that it happened? A lot of times people do nothing. Got a lot of good questions here. Thank you guys so much for your comments. Keep them coming. And keep going down the line. Susie, it's definitely good to not just be a business card passer outer. Stupid Mountains, reception is bad. You keep getting cut off. Juliet, I love that you're listening, love that you're watching. When you get to a safe place, you can always replay this later. Jason, still impressive, 10 or less to really focus on creating a connection with a few rather than many. If you create a relationship with a few, your name will travel, absolutely. I'm also a firm believer in this, that maybe that's my new favorite saying, I'm a firm believer in this, that you take every meeting that you can to an extent. Obviously, when you're going to a specific sales call and you're not interested, just tell them, hey, this is usually what I say is that, hey, I respect your hustle, I respect this. I'm not going to be your client. I shouldn't waste your time. You shouldn't waste mine. We'll just call it a day. And people seem to respect that. But then also, like if someone, calls or emails, I call them back. Why? Because I don't want to be known as the schmuck that didn't care or just cared about myself or something like that. And so people constantly, Steven, if you're still on here too, he and I were talking all weekend about a strategy that he's trying to implement to get to some new clients of his. And so spend time with your family, be where you need to be, but be better than everyone else because it will go further. Just like you said, Susie. Pens, Tracy, I don't have any of your pens on me, sorry. Kathy, it should have been most of them. Yep. Tracy said 0. You win. Your own pens back. Jason 2. I was hoping at least 2. Quite sure is minority. Kathy said, yeah. I mean, it's honestly, it's freaking ridiculous to think that many people would not take that advantage. Hey guys, real quick, if this information is really valuable to you, can you just share it to your network so we can get more people on it? It'll take just a quick second to do that. But what other questions do you guys have? Tal, I just saw that you joined. Hope you had a good weekend. But how are you guys spending your days? What's keeping you up at night? What is your struggle on kind of what should I spend my time on? Where is the tough part? Have you guys really taken an inventory of this? Have you figured out, this is where I'm spending my time and it seems to be correct? Or are you not even doing that? How many of you do the same thing for your financials? Do you go through and say, oh, every quarter, okay, I'm not using this thing, whether it's personal or business, I'm not using this thing, so I should probably cancel it. Yesterday happened to be the day where I started doing this, right? And so we have a partner, I guess, or a contractor, 80/20 software consultant, 8020.co. And they hooked us up with a tool that cost us about $25 a month. And as I'm going through kind of our inventory of financials, I said, okay, if we need to use this, then we'll use it. But hey, so I just texted Eric and I said, remind me why we have this tool. And is it super valuable? Because if not, we're going to cancel it. And he said, no, I don't think you need it anymore. We'll get you onto a different version. And so right there, if it's $25 a month, was that $300 a year that I'm saving? I figured out that my Dropbox I was paying a little bit more than, so I could delete that. I'm trying to delete all my files off of that so I can do it hopefully for free. And so it doesn't, think about it like this. If you're in year 5 of your business and that's $1,500 that you could have saved, that's $1,500 with the ads that you could have bought, $1,500 with the lunches or breakfasts and dinners or new staff or all these things that you look at it in such a small manner, and that's why they get you. Right? You think, oh, it's only $25 a month, but every $25 that you have 10 of those, it's $2,500 a month. And they keep building up and building up. And if you're not constantly on it, guess what? It's going to become a deterrent. All right, Steven says, Zach, hello. I just got my first no-show for a meeting I scheduled. What's the best way to handle this so I don't totally lose the connection? So Steven is following this strategy that we used, that we implemented about 4 months ago called the 50-10 challenge, where you're to try and make 50 curated and qualified phone calls that have been mutually agreed upon in 10 minutes or less. And so if you guys want to see this whole thing in action, I showed you kind of the entire way that I did it. You go to startwithhatch.com/50TEN, 5010, and so that stands for 50 phone calls at 10 minutes. And so Steve and I were talking this morning, or this weekend, and he has some new prospects that he's trying to get in. How could he find them? What can he do? And so I said, try and do a couple of minute consultations with them, and he just got his first no-show. Steve, I'm going to tell you, I think the first time that we actually did this, I also had a no-show. And then I think the second call, I woke someone up. And so we started them, I believe, at 7 in the morning. That first person didn't answer the phone. And we had, I think, probably 40, 50 minutes of a layover where no one was scheduled. And so when I make that next one, I actually woke someone up, and he was like, oh, can I call you later? And I said, yeah, sure. Call him again. No answer. And so we got all these situations where things are going to happen, and that's okay. I think we should always try and stay in control of the situation. Here's what you do. Follow back up with that person on the medium that you followed up with them on. And so if you reach out to them on Facebook, follow up with them there. Also, if you have their email, say, hey, John. I like to say John a lot. Hey, John, sorry I missed you this morning. It looks like I missed. Don't say sorry, because you're not sorry. Hey, John, looks like I missed you this morning. Hope all is okay. Would love to reschedule at this time later in the day or tomorrow and give another specific time. Hope that we can connect. Thanks, Stephen. Always kind of stay in the authority status. Always stay on top of it, and then do that. See what happens if you get a reaction, right? Now, if you don't get a phone call, because we never know what happened. Maybe this person has kids, the kid got sick, you just weren't there. Maybe there was phone reception was bad, like Juliet was talking about in the mountains. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe, in my case, actually one time, someone was on Pacific time instead of Eastern time. And so I called them at 4 o'clock Pacific time, not knowing that they actually signed up for they wanted 7 o'clock Pacific time, so it would have been 10 a.m. And so we don't know the situation. And so I always tell people, even if someone's having the worst day in the world, we don't know that. We should just give them the benefit of the doubt and see what's up. And so I would just follow back up and say that kind of script that I just said. And, you know, in 3 days, if they haven't done anything, follow up again. And then I would probably say that if they don't reach back out, keep them on a list of, I'll follow up with you at a later time, but they're likely never going to become, if they don't respect your time, they don't respect their own time, likely they're never going to figure that out. And so that's okay. I look at that as I didn't waste a lot of time on that. And so a lot of people hate that strategy because it's like, oh, well, like, you're not necessarily giving up on them, but you're going to stop wasting your time. And so as we're talking about time wasting, if we waste our time trying to bombard someone to give them something that we thought they wanted because they said it, and then they decide that they don't, well, I mean, what do you want me to do? Like you have to give in a little bit at some point. Kathy says, Stephen, text or call to make sure the person that missed the spot is okay. Show concern and let them know why they couldn't make it, then reschedule if possible. Yeah. Okay. What are you doing this week? What's your schedule look like? Is it super filled? Do you know where, I'll pull up my calendar and see what we have. So today I have, obviously, this call with you guys is important. And then I have some things that I want to get done. Things that I want to get done, I put on my calendar. If I don't put them on my calendar, I don't do it. Kathy, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. It'll be great. Looking forward to having you. And then sorry, sometimes this thing throws me off. Karen, how are you? All right. If you want something to happen, you have to schedule it. Here's a great little tidbit too. So I recently started going to the gym again, and I actually don't put that on my calendar because now I think I figured out that I'm going to keep going, and I find that I'm going to go on the weekends, in the morning, and during the week, in the time where I'm not very efficient. And so I find that my time where I'm not very efficient is between the hours of 3:30 and probably 4:30. And so I try and go to the gym then, so then I can get back on it and be better. Paul, what's up, man? Congrats on graduation. See you tomorrow, hopefully. And so one little trick that a lot of people use, though, is if they want something to happen, like go to the gym, they actually put that in, even if they don't go to the gym and they're trying to like interrogate themselves and remind them to actually go, they will go in and put gym, every morning at 7 a.m. And so, or every few days. And so what is a fun little way to do that is that you just remind yourself, and then hopefully at some point you do it. I can tell you that a lot of times I do that, and that strategy doesn't work for the gym, but it works to call this person or do this other thing. A lot of our business, a lot of the financials that come through are through monthly recurring payments. And so we don't have to do this next thing a lot, but I'll tell you this. And so we have a couple of contracts with folks where they pay us once a month in a set fee or an amount of money that we have kind of already mutually agreed upon. And so I occasionally forget to, or previously forgot to send out an invoice for those people. And that can be a real pain in the butt to be a week late to get some money when you're trying to figure out how to grow a business. You didn't even invoice the person. What the heck are you doing? And so thanks, Joan. Appreciate it. This is week 5 of the gym. So I set in my phone, and I would show you this if I had it on me. But hey, Chris, what's up? Every 21st, because I like blackjack, it says to create and send invoices so that I don't forget to do that thing. And so every time I get that, I think I get it like 9 or 10 in the morning on the 21st, so it'll be coming to me in a few days. It says, don't forget to do this thing. And so I still have to do that action, but it reminds me to do it. What do you use to schedule? Google Calendar. Okay, so I use Google Calendars as our calendar. I used to do it manually when we were doing 50/10 through kind of a web form called Wufoo. You can get a premium or freemium version, or you can pay a couple of bucks a month to get that. There's a new thing we just found called Calendly. I think it's Calend, L-Y. And so that allows us to set up a couple of minutes with people. It automates the entire process. So basically I say I have 9 to 11 available every Monday, schedule it until it's filled, and it seems to work fairly well for that. And so it's just a fun little tool to use. Right now it's free. If we use it more, we want more customization, we'll have to pay for it. But the good thing with a lot of companies is they incentivize you to use it for a little bit. As you grow, they will ask you to start paying when you've basically made more money. And so it's an interesting little strategy people do. Jeannie says, speaking of spending time in calendars, what's your favorite calendar to use? I've tried written and multiple online ones. I can't seem to stay consistent or find one. Google Calendar seems to work for me. There's challenges sometimes with it when I want to see like a full day, but most of my meetings, when I have meetings, are 5 to 10 minutes long. Many of you have seen me in action do this. I think that we got to get more straight to the point, so we don't talk about cats and babies or your weekend. We talk about what do you want to do. What's good about Calendly and the Wufoo forms I was telling you about is as a mandatory thing in it, we say, what do you want to talk about? And so that way we know exactly what that person wants to talk about while they're doing this. And I will pull this up real quick and show you what it looks like. But basically, instead of telling someone, oh, okay, this is blah, 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 you get on and go, hey, John, how are you? Oh, I'm good. All right, so you want to talk about this. And then we go right into it. And so I find that it's extremely important because then you don't beat around the bush. 10 minutes is respectful of both time, and you just really, really, really get into it. And so I'm gonna show you this real quick. All right, so it's very simple. If you guys can see that, it says, when can you talk? Fill out this form, and on the form it says name, phone number, email. Obviously that's where I'm going to contact the person. Those things are important. I give them a specific time range. Now this was like my MVP of this, where I said, okay, when can you talk? These are the times I was willing to do this. What is your website, so I can look at that while we're talking, and then what do you want to talk about? And so I gave them a time frame. So now this was the MVP kind of it, so the minimum viable product, or like a prototype of the whole conversation. And so I still had to do some manual things in this, saying, okay, so you had to be strategic with your time. So if someone signed in for 7 to 8 and then someone signed in from 8 to 9 but nothing else, I would try and do 7:50 to 8 and then 8 to 8:10. So then that 50 minutes before and 50 minutes after, I was able to then get back into something that I needed to do, which seemed to be good. So I would try and put people back to back to back. It also allowed me to force things more than trying to struggle and allow people to go, okay, it's 15 minutes, okay, it's 20 minutes, you're over. Well, now I'm 5 and 10 minutes late on another call. So you really gotta manage that time, and it seems to have worked fairly good. Karen Eagle, I think you're going to be on Hampton Roads Business Weekly too. HR AMA Thursday 11:30. Yep, I will be there. See you there. Looking forward to it. Also, when you have a specific to-do list, write that thing down, Jeannie. So like the most important things, I'll write down. And so, this specific thing right here is like my to-do list. And so those are the things I want to get done today. And just so you guys can see this real quick, these are my calls with people. These are my notes that I took with them. I still handwrite it. And then I put the amount of time that I would talk to those people, and then I kind of like hack the system. So I take notes, I would take notes here, and then over here I would say what I want to, what the takeaway is that I should kind of follow up with them with. And then I even kind of put the times down on how long they would talk. So these two that I have right here, 8 minutes and 13 seconds, 8 minutes and 15 seconds. It's just kind of to show people that, hey, you can do it when you don't beat around the bush. And I think that's really, really important. Tim, how are you, man? How's Franklin? He says, great talking points, Zach. You're doing a great job. QuickBooks Online has scheduled and memorized transactions for sending out recurring invoices. And memorized transactions, yep, made my life so much easier, especially the ones with monthly receivables. Yep. And so I totally agree. Ours change a little bit from an hourly standpoint, so that's why we don't do it through that. But I learned of this kind of strategy from Eric Wilson at 80/20 with FreshBooks. It's kind of automatic triggers as well. It basically just eliminates the pain out of you. And so you don't want to spend time doing something when you could be spending your time in doing something better. And so I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm really, really bad at. And so in 2015, I really focused on trying to find those holes and find people to fill those holes, or kind of technologies to solve that problem. So I'm not good at graphic design or any kind of creative design, so obviously brought on Dave Ritt to do those things. I'm not necessarily good at communications in a mass kind of way. I've brought on this guy named PSR to do that. He does all of our weekly emails and a lot of our kind of social, and we'll do even more over the coming months. But it's basically saying, what can you spend more of your time on? But yeah, that little ping to put together those invoices is so huge for me, Tim. And thanks for listening. It's great to hear from you. So Stephen says, so this is why you can never get pissed off at someone, because you don't know what they're going through, right? Stephen says, just an FYI, got a call from my missed appointment. He had an emergency with his billing company not depositing money properly. So he called to apologize and we rescheduled. See, if you get pissed off at people because, they didn't do that thing, you could end up losing because you were pissed off at them. And so, shit happens, right? And while it sucks, help people, right? Do good things to others and good things will happen to you. Random pet peeve, if you guys follow me on Snapchat, it's the same URL, /Zack Miller 84. When I go to the grocery store and I see those shopping carts that are not in a material kind of way, and they're just there's no function and they're just thrown everywhere, I get so angry, because I'm like, people are so lazy that someone else has to do this thing. And so I go, and out of my day, I do this because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And it's a very simple thing. You guys don't have to do it. Maybe you'll see me at Harris Teeter or Farm Fresh. It's crazy. But these shopping carts should just be lined up into these in a uniform kind of way. But what happens is people actually just throw them everywhere. Sometimes they're on the mulch. Sometimes they're leaned up against other cars and all that stuff. It's just come on, do good things to others and good things will happen. For Christmas this year, I asked for an emergency roadside kit. So all I had to do, if someone was stopped and they needed to jump, I give them a jump. Be good to others and good things will happen to you. Don't burn a bridge, exactly, Jeannie. My first huge corporate order was from an ex-boyfriend. Nice. That's funny. Paul says, do you prioritize your to-dos and meetings? Yeah, I would think so. I don't even focus on it now because I feel like I've just figured out what works and what doesn't. I don't necessarily think I prioritize. I think I've just understood what that meant. If one of you are trying to figure out what you should and shouldn't do, make a big list, I guess, and see what on that list you remember to do the next day. And if it's still a pain point, do it the next day. Maybe, so in the financial world, people talk about spending time, okay, you should spend 60% of your money doing this, 25% of your money doing this, 5% of your money doing this, 5%, that could be a strategy to figure out, what you're willing to do. So, 50% of the work is actually doing the work that someone has paid you to do. 20% could be, following up and making sure that people are good. 30% could be, trying to find new business. I guess that's a really quick, off the cuff kind of way to prioritize those things. But I think it really depends on what you do. If you're staff somewhere, or you're not actually finding that business, obviously you wouldn't find that business. But it's just figuring out what works for you, what works for the company that you're with, and seeing how to prioritize those things so that it would be good, good for you. What other things are holding you guys up these days? Thanks for all the shares. Just saw there were 7 shares. Love you guys. Whoa! This was awesome. See, I can't do 2 things at once. Anyone that works with me realizes that I'm ADD. I'm like, what is... Gotta stop looking. Okay, so you guys know what you're doing this week. What are your follow-up strategies with it? Right, so Karen, if you're still on, you said that you're going to HRAMA this week. Why are you going? And what do you expect to get out of it? And kind of what do you have set up to follow up with people afterwards? Now remember, as we've said, this is video 3, studies show, and I would believe it to be from our numbers, is that for a conversion to happen, a sale to happen, it takes between 5 and 20 steps. I don't know which way that would be right. And people stop following up after step 2. So if that's the case, you know, and you have a goal in mind, what are you putting in place to make sure that you follow up with those people that you meet? So you get a business card, do you email them the next day, that day, 2 weeks later? Never. You know, I would write it down today and say, these are the steps that I'm going to go through, and figure out what am I going to do with this person? Because if you don't, what will happen is you'll forget, and you'll follow up with them. You'll never follow up with them. You'll lose them. You'll lose interest, and it just doesn't end up good. Mandy says, investors, should I get one or not? I mean, what do you need one for, right? And so if you could take 20%, 10% of your money and just be a little bit more uncomfortable in life for a couple of years, is that something you're willing to do? Like in my case, absolutely, that's what I would do. I don't have an investor in Hatch. I own 100% of it. I don't ever plan on giving up any of it. We get offers all the time for people to become members. So you're doing it to help us start a business. And so I would say, how much money is really necessary in that? Open up as many credit cards as possible. You know, try and get some bank loans if they'll do that. Banks are a little tough there, but it's really understanding what are you willing to give up to get that thing in there. So let's say you make $100,000 a year. Let's say you make $50,000. Let's make it a little less. Let's say you make $50,000 a year, and of that you have an extra $10,000 available to do other things. You know, would you be willing to put that $10,000 in that, and then go and use that to get forward? If you need a space, which I think I know what kind of business you're starting, you do need a space. You know, how creative can you get when trying to find those things? Understand though that as soon as you get an investor, and I have had investors for other things. We have a fund, so we invest in 13 companies, so we have investors for that. It's very possible that they will try and run the business. And in our case, we don't have that with our investments. But you know, if you give up 40% of your business, 20% of your business, 10% of your business, you know, that person now has a stake in doing the things that you wanted to exclusively do. And so I think it's a very fine line. You have to really understand what you're willing to give up, what they're really getting into. I think you guys might have even tried crowdfunding. Sometimes that works as well. But how can you maybe even do small steps of your business to fund the bigger step? And so instead of opening the brick and mortar store, you know, what could you do to basically sell to fundraise for your business? Now it's not as fun and lucrative, but you don't have to lose investors. You build a community with it, and you are learning what people are looking for throughout time, so that when you do decide to open, you know, potentially a brick and mortar, you know exactly likely what people are looking for. And so I think you just have to be very cautious with investors. You have to really understand, is this really what I should do? An investor also, why should they trust you? Why should they know that you're willing to go into this the same way? We're actually working on a post right now talking about this, kind of some steps to do it. But if I was to invest in a company, and again, we have invested in several, I would be looking at the team. How much do I think they're actually going to get into it? Because I think a lot of times people do things and they're half-assed into it. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the things that I've seen. So you want to look at the team. The idea matters a little bit, but the key thing is, what kind of traction do they have? Does this company have any kind of traction? Is it just a paper idea? Is there anything specific on there? And so as an investor, I want to know that not only am I going to get my money back, but that I'm going to get that back to some sort of multiplier. And as kind of a founder of a company, I think a great way to kind of tell someone that is say, hey, look, we've already done X, Y, and Z. We've made A, B, and C type of money. With your infusion of capital, we'll get there quicker. We're going to get there anyway, but without we're going to get there anyway without your money. But infusion of capital will get us closer, or will get us to that end goal sooner rather than later. And so investors are tough. Raising money is tough. But I think at the end of the day, you have to really understand what you're getting into. And, is it something that you're really willing to get into? You're having a partner now, or a series of partners, and it's a completely different thing. It's not just you and your business now. It's you, your business, and all these other people. And so just be cautious that when you do things like get an investor, the whole dynamics that you might be going for completely change. And if you're not willing to, give up on things, will that investor get into you too? And so we see a lot of people that aren't really willing to give up their lifestyles, even though they make a lot of money, and they say, oh, I need an investor, just so that investor can cash in. And so I think by, being on the ground crawling, trying to figure out those things, you learn a lot from, and then an investor would likely want to jump more on that if it's proven. Yeah, I mean, Mandy, that's exactly it, right? Thanks for the confirmation. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I don't want anyone to tell us how to run a business. Then don't get an investor, right? I mean, because that investor is then investing in something that they're putting capital towards, and if you don't want to hear what they want to do, probably shouldn't bring them on. Kathy, thank you. So you just got to get creative, Mandy, with fundraising. If I were you, and I don't know exactly the ins and outs of what you guys are trying to do, but I would try and get creative in the ways that you fund your business to, from a day-to-day standpoint, to then hopefully fund a bigger concept, so that maybe when you do need to have a significant amount of capital infused, you can get that number by someone else who is more likely to do that and basically just loan you the money. Jeannie, see you later. Hey Nick, morning. I need a good source of finding an accountant. Goal for this month is to find an accountant that I can trust and doesn't suck. So, great question. I think this is a tough one, kind of like lawyers too. Whenever you get those kind of high profile service providers, usually there's a high ticket price with them. Nick, find me afterwards. We got some relationships with people that I think would be a good fit. But again, service providers, accountants, lawyers, coaches, things like that, they can run to be pretty expensive, very high hourly rates. And if you don't get creative with the way that you kind of bring them into your business, you will spend all your money on that instead of kind of the growth of the business. I would even try and just create a relationship with them, Nick, not to try and take away from the people that I might endorse, but find ways that maybe you can get them to give you just some guidance for a while, or find a way that you can not necessarily have to pay them, because what you'll find is that that end of the year tax bill for their services can be quite hefty. And I think a lot of early stage companies don't understand what they're getting into, and then that thousands of dollar bill, not to shock you, not to scare you, but that thousands of dollar bill can be very scary on top of the taxes that you owe and all those type of things. And so just like anything, and one of my best friends, or old best friends who moved, Mike Fleck, will tell you, I didn't spend any more than $100 per anything when getting started. And I think that's such a good strategy because, you know, $100, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But if you're spending $3,000 for something that you haven't even sold yet, was it worth it? And you never do? Probably not. Kevin Copeland, what's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. So we're talking about spending your time correctly to get the results that you desire. And so, I said earlier, I hope that most of you guys can go look at your days today, look at your coming days, the next 7 days or so, and really dialogue or catalog or whatever the word is. Write down everything that you are going to do or are doing at that time. And so it could be as simple as, you know, on a piece of paper, you could say, we could even do this, right? I'll do one to start. So from 9, so we'll say this is Monday, you know, so I think I woke up at 6. So from 6 to 7, get ready, you know, 7 to 9, review, week, you know, emails, things like that. 9 to 9:45, you know, welcome team, you know, that's when the team comes in. 9:45, we'll say this ends at 11. We'll say Facebook Live, right? And then what I have to look at from this is saying, okay, on this other side, and I have doctor's handwriting, what is my ROI on that, right? And so, if I don't have an ROI and I do all these, so obviously, okay, so then it would have been like 11 to 6 would have been sleep. Right, Fitbit tells me how much I sleep. So my morning, I don't know if you guys can see this, but so I wake up at 6. That means the first 6 hours of my day are gone. Okay, get ready. 6 to 7 are gone. Right, so I've already lost. I'm at 17 hours total for the day now. Then I get to work. My commute is 5 minutes or less, so I should put that in here. So like 6:55 to 7 is commute. And then from 7 to 9, I get in, I had to make coffee, had to do all these things. And so review week, go over emails, kind of find the things that I want. From 9 to 9:45, I welcome the team. From 9:45 to 11, Facebook Live. I know that at 3 o'clock today, from 3 to 4 is gonna be, I have a dentist appointment. 4 to 4:30 will be gym probably, right? So that means right here, 11 to really 2:45 if you think about it, because I gotta drive there. So after this call, I have 3 hours and 45 minutes, basically, in a traditional day, to get my day done. What else can I get done in this day to follow up with you guys, to figure out what's working, but then really look over here at this ROI. Hey, Greg, what's up, man? Have you moved yet? Really look at this ROI and figure that's the key point, right? And so if you're investing all this time over here and all this potentially money into it too, if you put an hourly rate on yourself, are you getting anything back here, right? And so I think most of the time people just think of this as I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, and don't actually look on the other side and say, what did I convert? How did I make money off of this? You know, a great example is this talk, right? And so if at some point I look at this and say, all this stuff was great, it was fun, it was emotional, it gave me ideas, but I got nothing on this other side, guess what? I would remove it from my day. And so this is something that I think could be good deal flow for us. It'll be a good opportunity to find new prospects and clients out of it. But if in a few weeks I look at this, even at the end of this week, and say, man, I had no follow-up meetings, no one called me back, I couldn't talk with anyone, I had no conversions, guess what? You eliminate that out of the thing. If you go to a networking event, and many of you talked about going to different networking events, and some of them worked, and and some of them you didn't like, you probably didn't go back to the ones that you didn't like, and you probably did go back to the ones that you did like. I would say dig deeper into that and say, what are those ones that I liked, did I like, and what was it that worked for me? And find out that maybe none of them actually worked. If you want an action to happen, you have to create that action. And so you can't expect that something's just gonna happen because you just show up too. Showing up is key, but if you don't introduce yourself to someone and say, hello, I'm so-and-so, you're never just gonna get business off that person. So does this make sense? How many of you guys take an inventory of your lives, and how many of you guys think that you're actually using it in the right way? The same can be done for money, right? We talked about making sure that you're spending things on things that create value, or make things easier for you. As a business owner, that's really it, right? I spend money on things that make my life easier, or things that I suck at. And other than that, I don't really spend money. And you probably shouldn't either. Or I guess the third one on that would be to get new business, right? So what were they? Like time, money, and more money. And what I suck at. This has been a lot of fun, guys. We've still got a lot of people on here. If you guys have other questions, let me know real quick, and we'll keep doing this. If you guys want to reach out to me individually, you can do that. All you have to do is message me directly right here on Facebook, or you can email me. It's Zack, Z-A-C-K, at startwithhatch.com, S-T-A-R-T with WITH.com. Happy to answer any of those questions that you have. But what are you going to do the rest of your day? Are you going to actually figure out if you're spending your time wisely, correctly, and ultimately look at the kind of return that you'll get on the investment of time, money, resources that you put into it? If this information was valuable for you guys and you're listening, please feel free to like or love it, now that we have love. And then if you have a network that you think is of value, if you could please share it to them or tag them below, would really appreciate that. Otherwise, likely we'll see you guys tomorrow at some point in the morning, maybe a little in the afternoon, test out that time. But it's all about figuring out what times work and what times don't work. And just because you have an assumption doesn't mean that that thing is true. My assumption is lunch when it worked. Maybe we'll try a lunch one, because maybe people do want to listen and consume information at that point. But I really appreciate you guys' time. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Kathy, we'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, if you guys would like to come to a coffee meetup tomorrow at Hatch, and you guys are in the southeastern Virginia area, our office is in downtown Norfolk, 111 Granby Street. We have a coffee meetup from 8 to 9 a.m. Would love to have you guys there for that. But until then, hope you guys have great days. If you guys have any questions or clarification, please reach out. Thank you guys, and love ya. Peace.